Hi guys and welcome back to Is It Worth It Reviews. Now today I have one review that I really liked doing. That means that the product in question is truly something. And even though you're not so hot on headphones, if you even consider getting some at some point, you should watch this one because it's about Aune SR5000. This model goes for $640 US, but its performance is really something. First thing is that you get a really nice rigid high quality carrying case that can be carried like this literally, and besides headphones you get two quality detachable cables. One is single-ended 3.5 millimeters, the other one is for balanced 4.4 millimeters connection. Headphones themselves are nicely made. They look and feel quite nice and premium in my opinion, but they did some smart things. For example, the rail is made out of metal, and these parts, I don't know how they're called, that are holding the ear cup are metal, but some other chunky parts like this cover and the circular ear cup are plastic. And that helped keep the weight very reasonable, and these are not super weighty headphones, but nonetheless they look quite nice and premium. The headband is leather. It's not super soft, but it's not hard either. I find it quite comfortable, especially because this is adjustable. It's not one of these self-adjusted headbands like KKG is using, but you can adjust this yourself. I also like that. Cushions are very fluffy and pillowy. They're very comfortable, and they're also big. So even I, with my vampire big ears, felt really comfortable using these for longer periods of time. And that great comfort is really a combination of these big, fluffy, cushiony ear pads and them not having too much weight. Some other things worth mentioning about these headphones is that they are using dynamic drivers, meaning that they have a driver cone inside. It's ceramic coated for more rigid piston-like movement. And probably even more important is that these are closed back, even though you cannot really deduce that from looking at the design because it looks like there are some grills, but these are closed back headphones. And that is important because they leak much less sound and they also isolate you better than open back headphones. But that usually comes with some shortcomings when it comes to the sound. But Aune did something really smart here. They implemented inside of the chambers some sort of technology that I think they call dragon scales or something like that. Anyways, it's similar to what KEF is doing with their so-called meta material, which is basically a technology that absorbs sound and most of the frequencies, not letting them resonate and rattle inside of the chambers. So Aune is using something similar, and I do think it works, because for the first hour or two, I didn't truly realize that these are closed back, because I did not notice that typical chambery sound that comes with closed back headphones. But we'll talk about that soon. For now, the next thing that I wanted to mention is that these are decently sensitive. They're not the most sensitive headphones on the market, but they're also not super difficult to drive. So power-wise, any decent headphone amplifier will do, which leads us to how they sound. Starting with the tonality, SR7000s are really well tuned. They are tuned in a mature way without any special part of the frequency spectrum being emphasized and trying to get your attention. So the bass is deep, and that means like really deep bass. It has reach, it has depth. Mid bass also is punchy, but the thing is that these do not sound overly bassy because of the precision and control, which is also fantastic. So you have this deep impulse like pop punch, but it doesn't linger, it doesn't rattle, or it doesn't feel chambery, as I said, that some lesser dynamic headphones with closed back design can easily sound like. No, this one is deep, authoritative, punchy, but really precise and well controlled. It never overstays its welcome. Then the mid-range, very revealing, filled with micro details. It sounds precise, it sounds clean and crisp, but I cannot detect any shortcomings like edginess or sharpness or anything annoying found there. Same story for the highs. Well extended, they have great detail retrieval, airiness is very decent. Highs are not that emphasized, there are brighter headphones on the market, and if you're used to something that is more sparkly or headphones that have like more V-shaped response with really aggressive highs and really overblown bass, you might find these a bit too neutral and even mid-range centric, but I don't think they are. These are just well-tuned. I don't care for preferences of Gen Z bass heads. This is the way to go if you want something that deserves to be called high fidelity. But there's more than tonality to this. Starting with soundstage. Now, soundstage is very surprising given that these are closed back. As I said, in the first hour or so, I didn't even realize they're closed back, because soundstage is wide, spacious, very well layered, three-dimensional, and very decluttered. Because the focus and pinpointing and layering that these do is really fantastic. Everything is arranged with great precision, and there's a clear sensation of empty space and empty room between and around instruments. Tone trails and tone decay, like reverbs, are easily observable, and that helps with the sensation of just three-dimensionality and space around you. The only thing that lets you know these are closed back is the feeling of pressure that builds up slightly when you are listening, especially to bassy songs. Because if you have open back headphones, that pressure is not building up the same way. So you at all time have a sensation of very open, breezy sound. And with SR7000, you do get that closed back pressure, that pressurized air and bass, and only that let me know that these are actually closed back headphones. Because going just by sound staging and how wide the sound stage is, I cannot easily tell that. And lastly, dynamics. Now these are really dynamic sounding headphones. And that goes both for microdynamics and macrodynamics. Everything sounds really alive. They can punch, they can do big scale dynamics, but I think that microdynamics is even more impressive. The speed that they have when they need to go from silent to loud, the snappiness they do that with, makes music sound more contrasty than with any planar headphones that I personally have. It's almost like going from really good big LCD TV that is really good, and that would be the contrast on planar headphones, at least the ones I have, to a really great OLED TV with deep inky blacks, but also really bright pixels that can truly exist next to each other. And this headphone has that same contrasty feel, but for sound and for music. It sounds so effortlessly engaging and contrasty. And I think that dynamic drivers are, when done really well, are still king with that. But that's enough about the sound in isolation. Let's do some comparisons. First one was with Aune's Aune AR5000s. These are much more affordable at around $300 and they look quite similar. They're also based on dynamic drivers, and yeah, they share a lot of house technology and solutions. That said, if you compare them directly, you should quickly notice that SR7000s are on another level. They're just a higher tier headphones. And when I compare something that is differently priced, I usually use adjectives like a little bit, slightly, and so on. But in this case, it's not by a little bit and it's not slightly. If the rest of your gear, electronics like a DAC and a headphone amp, are good enough, you will easily notice that SR7000s are bolder sounding, bigger sounding. The soundstage is just bigger, more three-dimensional. Bassline is weightier, have more authority, and even detail retrieval is better, and that contrasty feeling is higher. So all of that is toned down to something that is a bit more flatter dynamically and also spatially, and just doesn't sound as bold, dynamic, and big with AR5000. And these are as good as it gets at $300 US. They can easily go against any headphones at that price, which means that SR7000s are really good headphones that easily justify their price. As I said, if the rest of the system, the electronics, the headphone amp driving them is good enough to show you that. The next comparison is with Verum 2 planar headphones. And if you match the package, like having a hard box to carry them and some additional cables, etc., with Aune SR7000, the price of Verum 2 would be around 500 euros. And these are fantastic headphones by themselves. From the moment I reviewed them, I kept using them in my own Hi-Fi setup because they're really, really good. But when you compare them directly, Aune SR7000s bring even more fine details. They sound crisper, more precise. And also, they do make slightly better positioning and pinpointing of all those clean, crisp, focused tones around you. It's the same thing with really precise and snappy transients. They sound cleaner and faster with Aune. And while Verum 2 is an open back headphone, and because of that it feels slightly breezier and more open, in terms of just how you feel the air and pressure around your head, that doesn't translate into a bigger sound stage. If anything, Aune creates slightly, ever so slightly, bigger and more three-dimensional sound stage. Being closed back, that's a fantastic achievement. And lastly, dynamics. Once again, Aune is more capable in terms of dynamics and microdynamics. It feels more contrasty, it feels snappier, it does go from silent to loud easier, and it simply feels more contrasty. And while this comparison was much closer than the previous one with AR5000s, because Verum 2 are better headphones than those, Aune SR7000 still emerges as a winner in my opinion, with more capable technicalities, resolution, speed, but also dynamics, and how well they're imaging and pinpointing stuff in the soundstage around you. They just, at all times, to my ears, sound a bit more capable than Verum 2. Then the last bundled comparison that I'll do is with pricier planars, GoldPlanar GL2000s. These are the double-sided version, the pricier version. And I love how these sound. They have this softer but tonally rich kind of sound, warmer kind of sound. I used these for 2 years also, but technically speaking, they're less resolving and slower sounding, even compared to Verum 2, which is even more obvious when you compare them to Aune SR7000, that is just faster, more resolving, snappier, and more dynamic. And as much as I loved these and I recommended them for a long time, at this time they simply have to cede, in my opinion, to something like Aune SR7000s. And it's the same thing for Audeze LCD X that my friend used to bring to my home, and we would compare them to my headphones. They had very similar set of qualities to these GoldPlanars, like similar kind of resolution, but probably even more closed, darker sounding, and they are even pricier at around $1,200 US. And for those, it would be the exact same conclusion. Aune SR5000 simply sounds better. And the only way that I think somebody would consider these and those Audeze's better headphones is if they are paired with a bright, sharp and edgy electronics, so this softness and tameness is more pleasant than a very, very revealing nature of SR7000s. And this leads me to pairing. So, for example, if you buy that story that something that measures really great, sounds great, and you don't need anything else, and you purchased topping DX3 Pro or Pro Plus, and while that topping does sound really good for that price and really revealing, it sorely lacks boldness, bass authority, and just fluidity of tone, and it sounds lean, sharp, and edgy. And if you pair something like that to headphones that are as good and as revealing as SR7000s, you will be quite disappointed with the outcome. In that case, something that is actually muddier sounding, slower sounding, lesser revealing would sound more pleasant, like Audeze's that I mentioned or GoldPlanars. For these headphones, to really excel, I suggest using at least Geshelli Labs Irish 3 headphone amplifier. It sounded really well balanced, clean, and just really nice with that headphone amplifier. Pairing it with Aune's Aune S17 Pro Class A big chunky hot headphone amplifier, for me personally sounded even better. That big tonally rich sound gelled really nicely with these headphones, and that would be a great pairing in my opinion, not just because they come from the same company, but because they really do match nicely. Lastly, I did something that is not reasonable, but I was curious. I connected these headphones to Live Harmony headphone amplifier that is price-wise completely unreasonable match at $2,700 US. But I was really surprised that these scaled effortlessly, just revealing greater control, punch, and even richer inner tone detailing of that amplifier, showing how good these headphones actually are. And while I don't have something that would nowadays be considered the end-of-the-line headphone like Hi-Fiman, Susvara, etc., that costs $5,000–6,000 US, that's just so over my budget. My car is cheaper than that. I really do think that even if you give twice the price of these for headphones, you would not get an outright upgrade. Maybe something that sounds different, maybe something that you prefer in some way but not in others, but it would not be an outright upgrade. Because these do have sonic qualities and transparency that would 5–10 years ago be considered the end-of-the-line sound. Nowadays, it's not. The market is crazy nowadays with these premium, extra expensive headphones that I never tried, to be perfectly honest, so I cannot tell you anything about those, but I don't really have to, because these are $650. What I can tell you is that I'm personally going to keep using them, because first, they sound fantastic, and second, they're closed back, which is very practical and convenient in some moments, and once again, a very easy recommendation from me. And that would be all for today. See you next time.